This is the hot seat for Google CEO Sundar Pichai. And while it's the first hearing where he's ever going to testify on Capitol Hill, it wasn't supposed to be. Remember, a few months ago, Senate lawmakers tried to have him testify, and Google essentially said no. So there's a lot of angst, a lot of anger with Google on Capitol Hill among Democrats and Republicans. The primary reason for the hearing are allegations from Republicans that Google is biased against conservatives, which is something that Google denies. But you can expect to hear a lot of questions on privacy, on antitrust, on its ambitions in China. It's about to be a full review of Google's business practices.
Will this be a cloud over Google, Gene?
It will be, Melissa, and I want to try to illuminate why it's a cloud. First, this is, as Tony had talked about, the first time that they're essentially facing Capitol Hill in the House Judicial Committee. Second is that what they're going to be digging at is really a lot of data that Google collects. And I want to recommend your viewers to just simply Google the phrase, download my data. Download my data, and you'll see that there are 45 products that Google captures data from. And there are ways that Google can use that to make the products better, but there are ways that they can use it to optimize some of their monetization. Both of those are generally good, but when it comes to privacy, they will be looked at under a microscope. And so I think, to answer your question, this is something that will weigh on Google shares next week.
In terms of what sorts of regulation could be proposed, you know, Tony, the investors will say, each business model is very different. It won't be one size fits all, but take a look at GDPR in Europe. That was sort of one size fits all. Is that sort of the blueprint that you think lawmakers are operating on right now?
Well, for some lawmakers, yes, they would very much like to see the United States pass privacy regulation akin to what Europe put into place. And ultimately, at the end of the day, whatever Congress decides to do is going to regulate companies evenly. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's just frustration with the whole of Silicon Valley. It's Google that's testifying next week, but there are lots of lawmakers who question how Facebook collects data and how Twitter makes decisions on its algorithm. And there's just this general inching towards regulation here in Washington. We'll see if they're able to do that in 2019, but it certainly hasn't gotten any easier or better for tech companies recently.
Gene, give me a thought on Facebook and not just its vulnerability to regulation, but the vulnerability of its audience to slowing growth.
So Facebook's going through a transformation in terms of how people view the platform. I was recently with a large group of college students and asked them how do they feel about the use of Instagram and Facebook, and almost everyone raised their hand and said that they don't feel better using those products. And so I think this idea about tech well-being and our screen time, Facebook has a critical place within that with Instagram and Facebook proper. And so I expect that trend to continue. We're never going to get rid of Facebook and Instagram, but I think that will weigh this slow rising opinion that this isn't necessarily good for us to always be comparing ourselves to others people's, I think, trumped up lives. I think that will be a problem for Facebook.